Hey guys, welcome back to Storytime with Brickitect, which is apparently becoming a thing on this channel. This story actually picks up where our last episode left off, I believe, and that one was where a Brickitecter reached out to me on Instagram and told me they were selling off some of their Lego collection. Wanted to see if I was interested. I saw a picture of this Ferris wheel, asked him how much. He said $90. I said sold. He shipped it to me, but shipped it via UPS to my post office box, which apparently is a bad thing because UPS doesn't deliver to post office boxes. So instead they delivered it to someone else. I had to do a whole bunch of detective work and ended up going to this person's house to get my Ferris wheel. I brought it home and I thought that was going to be the end of the story and everything would be happily ever after. And I wish I could say that was the case, but if that was, we wouldn't be having this episode right now. So our story begins last weekend when I decided it's finally time for me to build the Ferris wheel. I come down to the studio here, grab the box that has all these little Ziploc bags of Ferris wheel parts in it. I take those upstairs and I dump everything out in the dining room, planning to build there because the family was home. Soon as I get started, the problems begin. I realize that I'm missing some pieces. So I'm like, okay, no big deal. I come back down to the studio here. I get into my parts bin, get what I need. I go back upstairs and then I get to the next step and I have a similar issue. And I get to the next step, and I have a similar issue. Eventually, I get to the end of bag one, which I have to say is quite a large bag. Of the Ferris wheel, I think there was only 4 bags in it. But by the time I got to the end of the first bag, I was missing 14 pieces from this set. That doesn't even include the pieces that I was able to get from my collection. These are pieces that I didn't have the proper color in, and there were 5 pieces of those 14 that I just didn't have at all. So at this point, I start to have some questions about this build. I assumed that it was fully complete, so I messaged the guy on Instagram and I say, what happened with this set? Did you forget to put a bag in or something like that? And he's like, I'm really not sure, but if you order the parts on Bricklink, I'll give you the money for that. And I said, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'll try to make do with what I have here. And at that point, I decided instead of working on bag 2, which was more of the base and everything, I decided to go right to the wheel because it's like, if that wheel's not here, then we're really having some problems. And I start working on the wheel and I get to the point where I have the wheel completed, only the wheel's not completed because I'm missing parts from the wheel as well. And that was the point where I started getting frustrated. And I should say before this, the person even offered to refund my money and everything. And I was like, no, I'm going to make this work. I'll get this. But when I got to the point where the wheel wasn't complete, that's when I was like, okay, I think we need to do something here. So I messaged him and I said, I'll tell you what, why don't you give me the refund for this, which I paid $90 for it, and I'll box it up and I'll ship it back to you and we'll just pretend this never happened. And he was like, no, you don't have to do that. I'll refund your money, but you don't have to ship it back. Just see what you can turn it into. And I was like, okay. This morning I got up with a fresh mind, feeling clear, and I was like, you know what? Let me finish the rest of this. I want to see just how complete this is. And I decided that I would build the legs that the Ferris wheel is on and see exactly if I could get the at least the wheel onto that and see if I could piece the wheel together. That's what I did, and I want to show you what this turned into and kind of talk about a little more from there. So here is what we'll call my completed Ferris wheel, and you're probably thinking, at least from afar, that it doesn't look too bad, but I'll take you in here and I'll show you what we're missing. And this is the part that I was just telling you about, this right here. And again, this is kind of what frustrated me, and I was like, how exactly do you not include these parts? Like, how do you lose these things? This whole section here is missing, and on the back side it's there. But it seemed to be, and you'll see as I go through this, it was like a quarter of all the pieces of this set were missing. Let's go down to the base here. This base was a bit of a nightmare. Again, I had to use a whole lot of my collection to complete this, but as you can see, eventually I just kind of gave up. There is this ramp that's missing here. There's even pieces missing from under here. Like this doesn't sit on here properly because there's pieces missing. There's supposed to be landscaping around the sides, like these little flowers and stuff. They're all missing. Of course, the minifigs are all missing, which I wasn't too worked up about that. Back here, you can start to see some of my substitution work. I had to put black in there because I didn't have any green. And even inside this piece here, there is some Technic pieces that are missing. And you can see back here, even the piece that holds this leg on, this is what it should look like. This is what it looks like, and you can see how that can kind of just come right off there, but I didn't have another one of those pieces, so that's completely missing. There's supposed to be a tower that's on the front here or the back. I think it's supposed to be right here that's like controlling this thing, and that was completely missing. It wasn't all bad news. These leg pieces here were mostly complete. I only had to use maybe 5 pieces from my collection to get it like this, but those were pieces that were essential to even make this thing stand up. So it makes me wonder, how did I see a photo of this where this thing was fully built and standing when it couldn't even have done that using the pieces you sent me? It leads me to believe that there was a bag that maybe he forgot to put in, or maybe when he tore this thing apart, it was just everywhere and he started putting the stuff all in the bags and forgot some. But that to me right there, it's like, how do you forget that? Luckily, the what are they called? Gondolas, maybe. Luckily, they were all there. So I didn't have any of those missing, and that was kind of nice. And in terms of function, if you come back here, you see this little lever here, and you start moving that, it does work. The Ferris wheel works properly. And that's where I'm in a bit of a conundrum here with this. When I messaged the seller on this about getting a refund, I was at my all-time peak of frustration levels. This came after 2 days of me trying to build this and coming down to the studio constantly, trying to get parts, putting them on there, finding some that I didn't have. And then when I did the whole wheel thing and those parts are missing, that's when I kind of just broke on it. And that frustration stayed with me yesterday. But then today when I got up and came back at it, and I got to the point where it's at now, where it actually looks like a Ferris wheel and is functional. In fact, Clarkman was even playing with it. I looked at it and I was like, maybe I shouldn't have asked for a refund, because it was on me. I didn't ask him if this was complete before buying it. I assumed that it was. We didn't have a conversation about that. When he sent it out to me along with all their stuff, I was like super appreciative of it. And I really thought this was just awesome. In fact, I guess maybe another thing that added to my frustration too, that I should say, is when he sent this all to me and I saw how generous he was and the deal that he gave me on this when I thought it was complete, I was like, I got to do something for you for doing this for me. And I said, what Lego theme do you really like, or what's your favorite? And he said, Harry Potter. So in the backlog over there, I had the Harry Potter Bricktober pack, and I said, I'm going to send that to you. And I'm also going to include this little Harry Potter set that I had from a flea market auction or whatever that my father-in-law found, which I think if you combine the value of those is about $50. But for me, it wasn't about the money. It was just about making someone happy. And that's what I did. And well, at least I hope so. And I guess that kind of added to my frustration here, because I had a lot of faith in what he did for me here. And I sent that to him as an act of goodwill. And then to have it turn out this way really just kind of left me with a bad taste in my mouth, I suppose. So I messaged the seller this morning and I said, listen, I don't feel right about this. This is still very functional. And I imagine if I get all my pieces together that I need, I could probably get on Bricklink and in just a few orders get the stuff that I need. So I messaged him and told him I'd like to resend him the $90 for this, just to make things right. And we'll just call it even. And it is what it is. I haven't heard back from him, so I'll have to maybe do a pinned comment or do a post or something to let you know how that turns out. But that's where I'm at on it. I have a partially completed Ferris wheel and kind of a heavy heart for how this all went down. I guess for me, it just came down to expectations that weren't met. And maybe those expectations were unrealistic. And maybe this is a lesson to me, and maybe a lesson to anyone out there. If anyone ever approaches you from your channel, if you have one, or just some random friend or person on Instagram and says, hey, do you want to buy some of my Lego collection? Maybe don't do that. Maybe don't. Even though this is a person that I've seen in my comments quite a bit, I don't know this person's age. He could be 10 years old. What I imagine probably happened, and this is just me speculating, he couldn't really give me a true answer as to how all these pieces are missing, especially like these large sections in the tower and all that stuff. He really couldn't tell me what happened, but what I suspect happened is in his haste in tearing this apart and bagging it up, I'm assuming that a bag got misplaced. I can't think of any other thing. I know that I had every bag that was out of it. I have nothing left in there. But something had to happen. You just can't misplace all of those pieces. If it was just like a Technic pin here or a little piece there, if it was like 5 pieces missing from this, it wouldn't be such a big deal. But when you're missing 14 plus pieces from the first bag, and again, it was a lot more than that, being that I found a bunch of those in my collection, something's wrong here. Curious to see what you guys think about this. What do you think of this transaction? What do you think of my reaction to it and asking for the refund? Was that uncalled for? Should I send him the $90 back for this to make things right? I think in my conscience it would make me feel better. Was the things that I sent him in return justification for the refund with the Harry Potter stuff that I sent? I don't know. I'm not looking at this as like, you give me this and I'll give you that. I'm looking at this as what's the right thing to do? What's the moral thing to do? Because that to me is going to last much longer than monetary things. And again, this is a person that watches the channel too, and I don't want to lose a fan or a viewer over this. I don't want to make someone angry with me, and I don't have any anger myself either. This is just, at this point, it's in the past, and it is what it is. But I'm curious to see what you guys think about that. Thank you for being my therapist, and we'll see you tomorrow for what I think is going to be a really exciting video that a lot of people are looking forward to. We'll send you guys out properly here with some Ferris wheel action. If you do want to see the backstory video on this and how I came to get this package and all the fun that was in that, I guess the original Storytime with Brickitect, I'll have that linked on the screen right now. I also have a Missing Pieces podcast link there as well. That's one of my favorite new series, and if you love listening to me talk, that's one of your things. That's probably an awesome thing for you to check out as well. I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me here today. I really do appreciate everything you do for me, and I'm just going to enjoy my Ferris wheel here.